Let me ask you something very direct right now. When was the last time you sat down, looked at your Social Security deposit, and actually asked yourself, is this the right amount? Am I getting everything I'm owed? Because right now, in 2026, there are millions of retirees across this country who believe their check is correct. And it isn't. Some are getting too little. Some are missing payments they never even knew they were entitled to. And some have just had hundreds of dollars quietly taken out of their monthly benefit, and they haven't even noticed yet. This is not an exaggeration. This is happening right now. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through every single significant Social Security change that is happening in May 2026. Changes that could directly affect your monthly income, your Medicare coverage, and your access to the services you've been counting on for years. So please, stay with me through this entire video. Some of what I'm about to share is good news. Some of it is going to make you a little uncomfortable, and some of it might genuinely change how much money ends up in your bank account this month and every month going forward. Let's start with the number everyone has been talking about, the 2026 COLA. A 2.8% cost of living adjustment took effect in January of this year, covering about 71 million Social Security beneficiaries across the United States. That's a step up from the 2.5% increase we saw in 2025. For the average retired worker, that translates to roughly $56 additional per month. So if you were collecting around $2,000 a month before, you're now looking at something closer to $2,064. Now, I know what you're thinking. $56. That sounds decent. That's grocery money. That's part of a utility bill. Every little bit helps, right? But here's the problem, and this is where a lot of people get blindsided. That same month, your COLA went up. Medicare went up too. The standard Medicare Part B premium jumped from $185 a month to $202.90. That's nearly a 10% increase in a single year. And because most Medicare enrollees have their Part B premium automatically deducted from their Social Security check, that increase came right out of your benefit before you ever saw it. So let's do the real math here. Your COLA added about $56 per month. But Medicare took back nearly 18 of those dollars. That means the actual increase that stayed in your pocket was closer to $38 a month. And if you're buying groceries, or paying for prescriptions, or trying to keep up with housing costs that have gone up far more than 2.8%, you know that $38 doesn't feel like much of a raise at all. This is something that advocacy groups have been screaming about for years. Medicare Part B premiums have now risen faster than Social Security's COLA for 3 years in a row. 3 consecutive years where the cost of your health coverage has eaten into your benefit increase. The Medicare premium increase this year alone was more than 3 times the COLA rate. Think about that. Your benefit went up 2.8%. Your Medicare premium went up 9.7%. Those two numbers are not even close. And for retirees on fixed incomes, this pattern is not just frustrating. It's a slow financial squeeze that gets tighter every single year. Now, some of you might be protected from the full impact through something called the Hold Harmless provision. This is a federal rule that says your monthly Social Security check cannot actually go down from one year to the next because of a Medicare premium increase. But here's what most people don't realize. The Hold Harmless protection only covers you if your Social Security benefit is $640 or less per month. If your benefit is higher than that, and for most retirees it is, you're paying the full premium increase. The Hold Harmless rule is only going to help a very small percentage of people this year. So that's the COLA reality check. Now let's talk about something that might actually put more money in your pocket, if you know about it and if you act on it. It's called the Social Security Fairness Act. And if you or your spouse ever worked in a government job, as a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer, a federal employee, or in any other public sector role, you need to pay very close attention right now. This law was signed back in January of 2025, and it eliminated two provisions that had been quietly reducing or completely eliminating Social Security benefits for millions of public sector workers for decades. Those two provisions were called the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, and the Government Pension Offset, known as the GPO. These rules were brutal. Under the WEP, if you received a pension from a government job that didn't pay into Social Security, your actual Social Security benefit could be reduced by up to $500 a month. $500. Just gone from your check every single month because of the type of job you had. And the GPO was even worse for surviving spouses. If your spouse passed away and you received a government pension, the GPO would reduce your survivor benefit by 2/3 of your pension amount. In many cases, that wiped the survivor benefit out completely. $0. A widow who spent 30 years as a teacher watched her husband pay into Social Security his entire career and still received nothing from his record because of the GPO. Those rules are now gone. Permanently eliminated. The Social Security Administration has been processing adjustments and sending out retroactive payments to more than 3.1 million people since early 2025. And they completed the bulk of that work 5 months ahead of schedule. That is a remarkable achievement, and it means that if you were affected by WEP or GPO, you should have already seen changes to your monthly check and likely a lump sum back payment covering the increase going back to January 2024. But here's the critical part. Some people still haven't received what they're owed. And the reason is this. Years ago, when some of these retirees called the Social Security Administration and asked about spousal or survivor benefits, they were told by SSA employees that because of the GPO, their benefit would be reduced to zero. So they never even filed a claim. Why would you file a claim if you've already been told you'll get nothing? Now that the GPO is gone, those same people are entitled to those benefits. But there's a problem. If you never filed a claim, the retroactive payments don't come automatically. You have to reach out and apply. And some people who are doing that right now are being told they can only receive 6 months of back payments, not the full retroactive amount going back to January 2024. This is actively being challenged by several United States senators, and legislation is in progress. But right now, if you or someone you know previously gave up on filing for spousal or survivor benefits because of the GPO, please contact the Social Security Administration. The toll-free number is 1-800-772-1213. You may be entitled to significantly more than you've been receiving, and there is a dedicated team set up specifically to handle these claims. And while we're talking about money that could be coming your way, let me also mention an important tax consideration that is catching a lot of people completely off guard this year. Those retroactive payments from the Social Security Fairness Act, the lump sum payments that some people received covering January 2024 through early 2025, those payments may count as taxable income. And if that lump sum pushed your total income above certain thresholds, you could be looking at a bigger tax bill than you expected, or even seeing more of your Social Security benefits subject to federal income tax. Now, the good news is that there is a new tax deduction available to seniors thanks to what's been referred to as the Big Beautiful Bill signed into law in July 2025. Eligible seniors can deduct up to $6,000, $12,000 for married couples filing jointly, from their taxable income. To qualify for the full deduction, individuals need a modified adjusted gross income below $75,000, and couples need to be under $150,000. If you're anywhere close to these income levels, especially after receiving a retroactive Social Security payment, please talk to a tax professional before you file. The numbers matter here, and you want to make sure you're not leaving money on the table. Now I want to shift gears because everything we've talked about so far has been about your money. But the next thing I need to tell you is about your access. And this is where things get serious. Over the past year and a half, the Social Security Administration has gone through enormous structural changes. Thousands of employees have been laid off or accepted buyouts. The agency that once had about 57,000 employees is now targeting a staffing level of around 50,000, a reduction of more than 12%. At the same time, the SSA has closed or consolidated dozens of field offices across the country. 10 regional offices have been reduced to 4. Think about what that actually means for real people. If you've ever had a problem with your Social Security benefits, a wrong amount, a missing payment, an identity issue, a claim that got stuck in the system, you know that sometimes you need to talk to a real person. Sometimes you need to walk into an office and sit down with a claims specialist who can look at your actual file and fix the problem on the spot. That is getting harder to do. In some parts of the country, the nearest Social Security office is now more than 100 miles away. In one case in New York, office closures mean some residents would need to travel up to 135 miles to get in-person help. And it's not just the offices. The SSA's website crashed 10 times in a 3-week period earlier in 2025 because the servers were overloaded after the agency's IT staff was reduced. The phones are backed up. Wait times have grown. Field office managers have reportedly been answering phones themselves because there aren't enough receptionists. Now add to all of this that the SSA has set a goal of cutting field office visits in half for fiscal year 2026, from over 31 million visits to no more than 15 million, by pushing people toward online services and AI-powered phone systems. And here is what most people don't realize about that. A lot of seniors cannot simply go online. Not everyone has reliable internet. Not everyone is comfortable creating an online account with identity verification that requires a smartphone, a specific app, and technical steps that even younger people sometimes struggle with. One Social Security claims specialist put it very plainly. Just because someone has a cell phone doesn't mean they're capable of creating an online account. Having people in the office when they need it is important. This is especially critical for people with complex cases: disability claims, survivor benefits, overpayment disputes, earnings record errors. These are not situations where a chatbot or an automated phone system gives you the help you need. And with less staff and fewer offices, the concern among advocates is that processing times for these sensitive cases are going to get much longer. Here's a real-world example of the kind of problem that can spiral. Imagine you're receiving Supplemental Security Income, SSI. A COVID stimulus check from a couple of years ago gets flagged by the SSA's system as income that could affect your eligibility. By law, that money is exempt from the SSI asset limits, but the system doesn't always know that automatically. Before all of these changes, a field office worker could typically resolve this kind of misunderstanding within a few months. Today, with reduced staff and fewer offices, the same innocent mistake could take much longer to fix. And while you're waiting for resolution, you might lose your benefit and your Medicaid coverage along with it. This is not a hypothetical. This is the kind of situation advocates and former SSA officials are warning about right now. So what can you do to protect yourself? I want to give you some very specific, practical steps. First, and this is important, create your online My Social Security account at ssa.gov if you haven't already. I know we just talked about how not everyone can do this easily, but if you're watching this video, you're already online, and having an account gives you direct access to your benefit information, your payment history, your earnings record, and important notices. You'll see changes to your benefit before they arrive in the mail. That early access can make a real difference if something looks wrong. Second, review your current benefit amount carefully. Check your January 2026 payment and confirm that the 2.8% COLA was applied correctly. Compare it to what you received in December 2025. Then check your Medicare deduction. It should now reflect the new $202.90 Part B premium. If the math doesn't add up, don't wait. Call the SSA. Third, if you worked in a public sector job and you were affected by WEP or GPO, check your recent notices. If you haven't received a back payment or a notice about an increase, contact the SSA directly at 1-800-772-1213. Be patient. Wait times are longer than they used to be. But don't give up. The money you're owed does not expire as long as you act. Fourth, and I want you to bookmark this one in your memory. If you're a surviving spouse and you previously gave up on filing for spousal or survivor benefits because a Social Security employee told you the GPO would eliminate it, you need to call them again. The rules have changed. You may now be entitled to a benefit you were told you'd never receive. Fifth, if you think you might qualify for Medicare savings programs, also known as the Medicare Savings Program or MSP, look into it now. These state-run programs can pay your Medicare Part B premium for you if your income is low enough. Having that $200 to $90 covered every month is a significant difference in your budget, and many people who qualify for this help don't know it exists. And sixth, this is something a lot of people skip. Make sure the SSA has your correct direct deposit information and current mailing address. With the Fairness Act payments still being processed for some complex cases, you want to be sure that if a payment is on the way, it knows where to find you. You can verify and update this information through your My Social Security account or by calling the SSA. Now, if you're finding this information helpful, if you feel like you've already learned something in this video that could make a difference for you or someone you love, I want to take just a moment to ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. I cover Social Security, Medicare, and retirement benefits every week, and this is exactly the kind of content that could save you or your family real money. Subscribe so you don't miss the next update, because these rules and these numbers change constantly. The subscribe button is free, and it keeps this information coming to you automatically. All right, let's keep going. Because there's one more thing happening in 2026 that affects anyone who is still working while collecting Social Security, and the changes to the earnings limits are significant. If you are collecting Social Security retirement benefits and you're still working, the SSA limits how much you can earn before they start reducing your benefit, but only if you haven't yet reached full retirement age. For 2026, that earnings limit for workers who are below full retirement age for the entire year is $24,480. For every $2 you earn above that amount, $1 is withheld from your Social Security benefit. Now, here's what trips people up. That money isn't lost forever. Once you reach full retirement age, the SSA recalculates your benefit to credit you back for the months they withheld payments. But in the short term, if you're not planning for it, you can end up very surprised to find your Social Security payments suddenly reduced or stopped entirely because you earned a little more than expected at a part-time job. And for people who reach full retirement age during 2026, the limit is higher, $65,160. After you hit full retirement age, there is no earnings limit at all. You can work as much as you want, and your Social Security benefit is not reduced. Also worth knowing for 2026, the taxable wage base for Social Security contributions increased to $184,500. This is the ceiling on earnings subject to Social Security payroll tax. If you're still working, this affects how much you and your employer contribute. If you're a business owner or self-employed, this is especially relevant to your tax planning. Now let me pull all of this together, because I want to make sure you leave this video with a clear picture of where things stand. In 2026, Social Security gave you a 2.8% COLA. That's real money, but Medicare took back a significant chunk of it with a near 10% premium increase. The net increase to your actual take-home benefit is smaller than the headline number suggests. And the trend of Medicare premiums outpacing Social Security raises is a pattern that experts say will continue for years to come. The Social Security Fairness Act is one of the most significant improvements to the program in decades. It restored full benefits to millions of teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other public servants who had been penalized for decades. If you were in that group, most of your adjustments should already be in place. But if you haven't received a change in your benefit or a retroactive payment, there is action you need to take right now. The SSA is operating with significantly fewer staff and fewer offices than it had just 2 years ago. Wait times are longer. Online systems have experienced outages. Getting help with a complex benefits issue is harder than it used to be. If you have any pending issues with your benefits, anything that feels unresolved or uncertain, address it sooner rather than later. The system has less capacity to help you quickly than it once did, and waiting tends to make these situations worse, not better. And perhaps most importantly, know your numbers. Know exactly what you're supposed to be receiving, why, and when. Understand what Medicare is taking out of your check each month. Know whether you're receiving all the benefits you're entitled to, including spousal benefits, survivor benefits, or any benefit that might have been restored under the Fairness Act. This information is yours. You paid into this system your entire working life. Claiming what you've earned is not asking for a favor. It's collecting on a promise that was made to you. And that leads me to the last thing I want to say in this video. Social Security is under more pressure right now than it has been in a very long time. Budget conversations in Washington, ongoing staffing cuts at the SSA, trust fund projections that show potential shortfalls in the coming decade. None of this means Social Security is going away. But it does mean the program is not on autopilot. It is being actively shaped and reshaped right now, and the decisions being made today will affect your income and your health care for years to come. Staying informed is not optional anymore. Knowing what's in your check, what's coming out of your check, what you're entitled to, and what to do if something goes wrong, that knowledge is what protects you. That knowledge is the difference between catching a mistake in time to fix it and letting money walk out the door that you'll never get back. May 2026 is not a quiet month for Social Security. It never really is anymore. There is always something changing, always something you need to know. And I will be right here to make sure you know it. If you have a question about anything I covered today, about your own situation, about a benefit you're not sure about, please leave it in the comments below. I read them, and your question might be exactly what someone else in this community needed to ask, but didn't know how to put into words. Also, if you know someone, a friend, a neighbor, a parent, a sibling, who is on Social Security and might not be aware of any of these changes, please share this video with them. You could genuinely be doing them a financial favor. It costs you nothing, and it might save them a significant amount of money. Hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay informed, stay protected, and take care of yourself.